Here, let me go through a little bit before we kind of get into the meat of this here, and I'm hoping really for those of you that are East Bay members here. By the way, I should mention we are recording this. You are not going to be in the recording unless you stand behind me, and I would prefer you not. Okay, so anyway, as far as that's concerned. And we're going to use this partially for internal purposes, but we'll share it with the chapter, and if they find it valuable, that'll be great. Let me just go through a little bit about what this is as we go through it, and then we'll have Christine talk a little bit about the program here, and then Herb has been using it as well as we are. So I'll just let you know, part of what we're looking for is we're looking for support for the project. We're looking for support both for the project and also within PFAC. I think this is something that's going to add a dimension to your practice, and you might listen to this and go at first, why in the hell would I do this? And I think there's a darn good reason, both an advocacy reason and a business reason. I don't know about you, I got payroll, so I mean I got to make a few bucks here and there. This kind of started as a program under the Golden State Pool Trust, and one thing that is a little different about a pool trust versus like a private fiduciary is we're a call center. It's very, very rare that I will ever meet one of my beneficiaries, okay? And I know a number of you have worked with us here, but we really work as a call center. And with that, whenever we are dealing with a beneficiary, the majority of our beneficiaries are quite capable of expressing their wishes. In fact, some of them can't seem to stop here, but they can certainly advocate for themselves. Some of them have natural supports, which would be family members and that kind of thing. But we have, I'm guessing, about 25–30% of our folks who they're just not able to do this. And the other thing that's going on, if you're experiencing what we're experiencing, we're getting about 2 reviews a week from Social Security. And so Social Security is committing to review every single expenditure from every single special needs trust. And this is one reason why you really need to have your everything in order. Well, we go back to this. A lot of what we're doing is we're making expenditures. We use TrueLink cards. We use Able cards. We use whatever we can. But the problem is we need receipts, right? And some of these folks, you are not going to get receipts back from these people. It's not going to happen. So there were a number of things with this about we were looking at expanding our programs here, but the problem with it is having case management. Now, by the way, we're not going to out you, but do we have a case manager in the room? Okay. Even if we did, and even if you're a case manager watching me, this is not to replace the case manager. This is to add another level of services. So we were looking at how could we do this, and we looked at all sorts of different ways. My wife, Terry Dale in the back, who is a fiduciary as well, here, we traveled all over the country. We went to different pool trusts. We looked at different ways of doing things, and on our board, and we actually have a nonprofit. We have a real life nonprofit here with a board with directors that do have opinions here. They were saying, you're just wasting your time. You should engage one of these SLS programs. And I'm going, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now we're going to go through, for those of you that don't know what a supported living services and an independent living services programs are. But the brilliance of that was that it's an existing program and an existing system that's doing essentially what we're looking for is somebody that can engage with our beneficiaries, to be that go-between for information both ways for our beneficiaries. And we thought, well, that's a really good idea. Okay, so I'm very active. I'm on the board of the ARC of California. I'm on the board of way too many groups here. And so we thought, well, we got a really cool idea, and we're going to start looking to see if we can find some ILS and SLS agencies. And we traded some emails around with the leadership of the ARC of the U.S. and all of that. Somehow the emails ended up in the hands of somebody from the May and Stanley Smith Trust. Now, you may never have heard of the May and Stanley Smith Trust, but it's a wonderful foundation that's in Marin County. And they said, boy, we've been looking for something like this and we would like to help you, okay? And we go, that's cool. So we kind of wrote this up. Now, here's the thing that came up. is that by taking the grant, and with the grant, we needed to work with with some sort of a educational group, you know, and so they asked me, well, do you know some sort of an educational group? And I go, well, I kind of work with this group called Stetson University Law School, you know, and go, they're the leaders, as far as I'm concerned, they're the leading educational group when it comes to special needs trusts. I go, well, that would be cool, and they, lo and behold, they said yes. So the other part of this as we did this was that in order to make this work, even though we have over 200 beneficiaries, to make this work for East Bay Innovations, which is what this is really mostly about, we couldn't possibly give them enough work to make a systemic difference, you know, with their program. So what we did with this is we said that we will open this up to any professional trustee, which, by the way, there are no rules. I mean, they're free to use whatever they want. The rules of this program is there are no rules. Here, there's mostly guidelines. It's kind of like the Pirates code here. And so, but there's a structure with this, and we thought, well, that would be great. That's why we're here today, because part of this is we're trying to build a network, first in California, then across the country, of trustees working with direct service provider agencies that can help enhance people's practices, okay? Along with that, there's a study going on, and some of the stuff I'm not surprised, but you know, the fact is that it is very challenging taking care of folks with disabilities. It's not one of those things that just everybody can do. And I think partnership really makes a big difference. So let me just plow through my part. We'll turn it over to Christine, and then Herb has had some experiences with it, and I'm really interested in your input here. The reason that we would like your information, so if you don't want to fill out the full evaluation, we're looking for folks that are interested in learning more as time goes on with this, and so if this is something you're interested in, please fill out the form for EBI. We'll give it to Christine, and then you'll get further information as this network grows. So we just added 4 more counties today. So what is this all about? It's a quest for a better way to serve beneficiaries of special needs trusts, okay? Now here's the deal. I'm in kind of an unusual situation because my family comes from 3 generations of psych techs. My family works in institutions for 3 generations. I worked as a psych tech for 17 years. I've done disability my entire life, and that kind of thing. And even with that, it's almost impossible to master all the different aspects of taking care of a person with a disability. There's a lot of things here and a lot of needs and that kind of thing. It's kind of like being part of a university you never graduate from. So we were looking for a better, more person-centered way of doing that. The concept of partnering with existing agencies here, that the concept was to partner with existing agencies, not to create a new system, but to adapt existing systems. And this is really important to this whole thing. So as Christine goes through what does an ILS and what does an SLS agency do, I think what you're going to see is a lot of the needs that our beneficiaries have on a day-to-day basis, they're already doing it. So it's not like we have to create a new system. And that's what got the Life Passage Planning Project done. So along with that, the May and Stanley Smith and the Posey's Foundation, once again, is encouraging adding a vocational part of this, and that's what I'm going to show you here. By doing this, you can add services to your own practice that fiduciaries just don't traditionally do, like help people get a job, you know? Turn them into taxpayers. And this is from a Northern California liberal, okay? So if we can turn them into taxpayers, let's do that, okay? It's overseen by the Stetson University College of Law. How many of you are familiar with Stetson and all that? And I know Herb has gone many times. If you ever get a chance, yes, it is in Florida. It is special needs trust on steroids here. So part of it is to adapt and improve existing systems, concepts and resources in a way that better serves beneficiaries of special needs trusts. I will tell you, I think the biggest thing that's lacking in the administration of special needs trust is good case management that really works with these folks, okay? And this is not to say that working with a senior care manager or a fiduciary, because you're fiduciaries, and there is a social service side of it, but I found very few fiduciaries that really their major focus is the social service side of this. This is going to add something to this. The system will develop and implement a system of assessment and delivery of services to beneficiaries of special needs trusts that coordinates the efforts of all stakeholders in providing quality of life to beneficiaries of special needs trusts. I will tell you, my focus originally was how can we bring the cost down, okay? Now, we hire a lot of, geriatric or senior care managers. And by the way, I love working with care managers. We've been working with care managers for years and all that. Their major focus generally is going to be working with seniors. Working with seniors is similar to working with somebody with like a bipolar disorder or Down syndrome or autism, but it's not the same. Okay, I'm just here to tell you. There's a lot of similarities, and we might even talk later about how when do we use a care manager in a traditional sense, and when do we use EBI, and then ideally, how do we put these two together? The program will work with participating programs that can easily adapt to the system to deliver services to beneficiaries. The thing that came from our board was the cool thing about ILS and SLS programs is you don't have to build a new system. It's already there, okay? And to do it at a higher quality, lower cost, and providing these agencies a sustainable stream of income higher than the rates that they currently receive from government-funded programs. There is a second part of this, which I won't get too far into, but if you like, if I send you a link to this video, I would love to send you a link to a video that was just done by Futures Explored on the problem a lot of these agencies are having, because they do an absolutely wonderful job having to pay their workers maybe minimum wage, maybe a little higher. And the problem is, this is wonderful, fulfilling work, but these people have rent, right? So the other part of this is better serving our community, but something that's always been important to me is that having the legal community and the fiduciary community working closer with the disability community, because right now I would say we are totally fractured here, and I think, the last thing I want to do during my career is I want to bring all of these groups together. So there. Okay, so by creating a standardized system of assessment, okay, because here's the thing that happens. We could go around and set up this network, but if we have a different set of rules for every program we work with, it's going to drive folks nuts, okay? And so part of what we're doing is not that every program's going to work and do things exactly the same, but what we're looking for is a standardized system of assessment and delivery of services that trustees will have the ability to increase their capabilities to better serve their beneficiaries by creating access to services currently not available to many beneficiaries. I know for my first love is mental health. Okay, I worked in mental health, I grew up in mental health, I might have a mental health problem for all I know. They are the most difficult folks to work with, okay? I'll tell you what, when we get a referral for somebody with the new term is behavioral health issue, we're just kind of thinking, is there any way we can say they're autistic? Why would we want to do that? Because the only way to get services through the regional center is we've got to have a developmental disability or an intellectual component of this. And, and if we can make it work, that's terrific, but it doesn't always do that. Here, what this is going to do is this is going to bring those services that have been available to folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities to everyone. For instance, beneficiaries with mental health diagnosis cannot access SLS and ILS services here because they're not regional center clients. This is going to take those services, and these are the premier services that regional centers provide. They're the most sought after, by the way, they're the most expensive in many ways, services, but there's a reason for it because basically, as we go through this, is ILS and SLS provides everything that's needed for somebody to live in their own home. that kind of sounds like what we need. This allows trustees, including the Golden State Pool Trust, to purchase those services, broaden their ability to serve their beneficiaries. While the Golden State Trust is taking the lead on this, this is open to all. We go back to this. I am actively here today. I am hoping some of you will bite the bullet, as Herb has done, and see the value in this and help us not only start making referrals to EBI and help us shape the program here, but also to go out and talk to other groups and all this about the importance of having relevant case management for folks with disabilities. If you're a fiduciary, consider how utilizing this program can improve your capabilities. I will tell you, like I said, my original focus was bringing down the cost. I have been pleasantly surprised that, yes, we have brought down the cost, but the level of services now and the things that we're able to provide, I would never have dreamed of. Helping people get, fill out forms for Section 8, helping folks here look for employment services, all the core things that EBI does. If you're a family member who's concerned about the quality of life of your loved ones, consider how this could help expand your ability to serve beneficiaries. If you're an attorney counseling folks with disabilities and families, consider how this will add another component. The problem with attorneys, okay, so taking off my fiduciary hat and being an attorney, okay, here is, what are we good at? We're good at creating forms that protects people's SSI and Medi-Cal. Now, I was kind of taught, if you could do that, job is done. That's ridiculous, right? I mean, what are folks looking for? Of course they're looking at preservation of benefits. They're looking for quality of life. That's what they're looking for, and this is what this is going to bring. So part of this in working with the agencies real quick, and you probably have heard this, I'll just go through two cases because what kind of self-respecting attorney isn't going to cite some case? These are big ones. If you haven't seen these, you probably should memorize them. There's the old J.P. Morgan case, which is on one end of it, they got a massive amount of money for this person, and there's one thing they did well. They billed on a regular basis and they were correct to the penny. What were they missing? They actually were told secondarily that this person has autism and they didn't really have any needs whatsoever, so why bother, so just do anything. Well, somehow the court got their hands on it, and what they kind of came down with is they forced them to hire a care manager, somebody to actually go out and work with the person, and lo and behold, there were needs that were unmet, and the judge was not pleased, okay? And actually, if you ever read this case, it's I wouldn't want to be J.P. Morgan at the end of that, right? Okay, on the other end of this, and I have a friend of mine who represented a trust where the trustee got sued for being stupid enough to grant every wish. Well, this is an example of that. This is a case here where $400,000 went into this, and they basically granted everything the beneficiary and the family wanted, ran out of money in 10 years, and the court basically said, you idiot, here, you shouldn't have done that. And I know, I'll tell you, the hardest thing for me, I don't like telling people no, and my job is to go, no, 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 let's work on this, can we do this? But no, we're not gonna buy, a hyperbolic chamber or something like that. We're just not doing it, we don't have the money. So, two cases. Last thing here, and then we'll turn it over to Christine is, can you do this? Okay, now here's the deal, okay, and I know when we first started talking to some fiduciaries, it was kind of hard to go, well, what are they going to do? They're going to be like a little co-trustee, or what are they doing? Okay, well, here's what our probate code says. It says that you can't delegate to others things that you're reasonably required to do. Okay, so you can't just turn this all over to EBI and tell them, well, you just don't go take care of Junior here, and then let us know at the end of the year. That you can't do. In a case where you have delegated a matter to an agent here, the trustee has a duty to exercise general supervision. So, once again, it doesn't mean that you can just wash your hands of the case. You actually have to have some interaction going on between the trustee here and the agency here, and this section does not apply to investment and management functions. Although, from my understanding, you're not doing investing services at this time. So Dan, you're safe for now. Okay. Oddly enough, it also says for banks they can't delegate because they're supposed to know how to manage money, and that's not always true. But we'll just get back to that. Okay. So delegation. So there's kind of a three-step process when we do this. The first thing, and Christine's going to go through this, first we got to assess and figure out what the hell the beneficiary needs, okay? Like I say, so a lot of times, when we make a referral or when Herb makes a referral or whatever, you send them out and you got to determine what that is. What are we contracting to do? Then we need to have an assessment done so that we can determine what it is we're delegating. And then as it said before, I can't just say, well, I delegated, I can wash my hands of this. I need to be able to take a look at the information, give general supervision, go, really good, all that, could we focus on something different? But as long as we follow that, we should be in good shape. So what have we learned? We've learned a ton of stuff. Yes, sir.
So in terms of that process, so like if you were ever audited, you would just have to demonstrate that you had a process?
Yes, you would. Actually, if you were to, where would this come down? If you were sued for malpractice, let's use the M word here. Part of it would be, did I properly delegate? Did I have the proper supervision and that kind of thing? Just that simple. So part of this is a lot of the folks that I think, once again, I'll ask Christine to cover this, but a lot of the folks we're dealing with are folks with behavioral health issues. That has been a big focus of this here. Part of this is we've learned a lot from working with Herb, so part of this is it's fine to pitch this, but if you're looking at incorporating this into your practice and you have staff, you need the staff's buy-in. I don't know about you. Maybe I shouldn't say this on tape. I'm not really in charge of the Golden State Pool Trust. My staff are in charge of the Golden State Pool Trust, and once again, and theoretically they work for me, but it feels like some days I work for them. But it's one of those things that if you don't get your staff's buy-in, it isn't going to fly. Here, larger percentage of persons with mental health. Housing is a major need. Isn't that a big surprise? Okay, so both with EBI and ICS, which is the other program, and we just brought on board here a group called Bayberry in the North Bay. So like, she's presenting here in this area, Alameda and parts of Contra Costa County. If you have a client in Marin County, I have such a deal for you. There is a parallel group here that has done a wonderful job, and they're really good with mental health. The needs of beneficiaries vary greatly. Some need ongoing services, so some just need a safety check once in a while. Some need more involvement. Some need help getting their receipts in order. Some folks can't get to a medical appointment to save themselves and that kind of thing. So anyway, so with that, I want to introduce Christine, and I know we have just a short amount of time compared to this. I do want to tell you that what she has brought to the beneficiaries we work with has been incredible, okay? And we're really looking at trying to expand this here and make this, and our goal here is to make this the standard in the industry here, where when you have clients who need these supports, my hope is in a couple of years you go, well, why would I not use an LPP program? Christine, thank you for coming.
Thank you for introducing me. Great. Hello, my name is Christine Grabowski, and yes, I am with East Bay Innovations. Hold on really quickly, because Steve always has me stand in front of this camera. How do I use this thing again?
Forward backwards.
This is right here. Okay.
There we go.
All right, so a little bit about East Bay Innovations first. We've been around this is our 25th year anniversary. We've been providing services to people through the regional center of the East Bay, so people with ID disabilities. We provide people with employment services, independent living, supported living services. I will go into a little bit more detail about what ILS and SLS is. That's what I'll call it from here on out, because it's long to say independent living and supported living. We also recently, in the last 5 years, have tapped into working with Alameda County Health Services and with a program called the California Transitions Program, where we help move people out of skilled nursing facilities, seniors, back into the community and get them transitioned back home using their benefits. And then recently we've teamed up with Steve and Herb and a few other agencies to provide those similar services. So, oh, this is blank. So East Bay Innovations, we are a nonprofit. We were formed 25 years ago. Steve, I'm going to sort of go through this kind of quickly. Currently, we serve over 200 consumers. In ILS alone, we have 180 consumers that we are contracted and vendorized through the Regional Center of East Bay to provide support with. That we hire staff for them. That means we have liability insurance. We're covered. All of our staff, when they are hired, they go through a pretty deep background check. They have to do a DOJ. They have to get fingerprinted. If you are a driver, you have to submit for a DMV pool. We run your driver's license to make sure that there's no major felonies on there, because then you can't drive, because we do drive people to medical appointments, to the bank, and to benefit appointments. Employment services, the same thing applies, because they're helping people at the job site. So for the first 20 years, our main focus were on consumers from the Regional Center of the East Bay. We do go into Contra Costa County a little bit. That's because if a housing opportunity pops up and it's in that area, we want to still be able to provide services. So we will continue on. We don't go into like San Jose, Santa Clara, San Francisco, because there are many agencies like ours, and we would just transfer that over. And that's sort of for logistical and honestly cost reasons, because we have to pay for mileage and all those travel expenses. So this is our mission statement. EBI really focuses on providing services at where the person's at, where they want it, in their home, at their work site, in the community. We are a community-based organization. When we meet with people, we don't have them come to our office. We go to them. We meet them at their home. So all of our case management is done in the place where they feel the safest. And sometimes that's not going into their home right away. They might want to first meet with us at a restaurant, or maybe at the regional center where their case manager is, or maybe at an office where their fiduciary is and who they're familiar with. So that's where we meet them at. But our main focus is really making sure people are integrated back into the community where they want to live. So if someone doesn't want to live in Alameda County anymore, I've helped transition people to move to San Joaquin County, where they have family as they've been aging, and that's where they want to live. So we are not just going to provide supports and keep you in an area where you don't want to live. We're working with someone through Steve who they want to move out of the area. So we apply them to Petaluma and everything, and if they find a housing, they can transition their supports to another agency. So our area of expertise. So we have several people at our agency who are certified in SSA benefits, Social Security Administration benefits, so SSI, SSDI. I am not one of them, but I do know quite a bit. After working at EBI for 11 years, I would say I'm fairly versed in benefits, public benefits. So we help people apply and maintain supplemental security income, their Social Security, disability insurance income. I will say most of the people who we support with SSDI, their benefits are earned either through their parents or their disabled adult child, or they had their own work income at one point and they have enough in their work credit points to collect their own SSDI. So we help in that area. We also help with Medi-Cal, Medicare. We want to make sure people, if you're switching from SSI to SSDI, that you maintain that Medi-Cal benefit, because that in the future will really assist you in getting in-home support services. Another benefit through Medi-Cal that we help provide supports in. Another place that I feel like we're really strong in, and that is housing. We work diligently to find affordable housing in the Alameda Contra Costa area. We apply people for Section 8 vouchers throughout the area if the family is willing to help, because we can port vouchers from one county to another county, from one city to another city. So we help in housing. We are currently right now, Tom Hines, our executive director and founder, he's working with developers to acquire housing for our specific program with the Alameda County Health Services for what we call 811 units. Those units are for people coming out of skilled nursing facilities with disabilities, and they recently expanded it with mental health. However, we've been able to utilize those units for other departments. So over the next couple years, we will have acquired 150 units in Alameda County, which we are responsible for keeping filled. Right now, our latest place that we're working with is in Hayward. It's called 808A. They are senior development. EBI has sort of taken on the responsibility of keeping 20 senior units filled. We were able to actually place someone with Herb Thomas in this unit. And it's affordable housing. They're below market rates. It's affordable housing, but it doesn't mean that we don't stop looking for housing. Someone that we place there, they want to live in the Tri-Valley and to live in more Pleasanton area. So we are still applying this person to other senior units or Section 8 opportunities that come open, so they can eventually transition back to the area that they once lived before they lost their housing benefits. So I feel like we have a really strong skill set, and we have a really good team. We have several, besides Tom, there's Tammy and Sam and other people in the agency who really sort of all lead for housing. Leanne has created a housing database for us, so the moment she hears of an open wait list or a possibility of a unit, she sends out an email blast to all supervisors, and we all have a list of people, and we just start applying people. Doesn't mean they're going to get it, but at least they're on that wait list for a potential lottery draw for that unit. And we just keep doing this. So we've really built a system internally to make sure we stay up on housing opportunities that come up within Alameda County and within parts of Contra Costa County. So when we say parts of Contra Costa County, we really tap into Richmond and Walnut Creek, Danville, San Ramon, and Concord, because those areas are closest to Alameda County, where we've been able to successfully move people into for affordable housing. So a little bit about ILS and SLS before we get going into this anymore, because I think when Steve, you were talking about it, our agencies, the agencies he's working with, that's so where we all started at. Supported living just means that someone requires supports up to 24/7. That means we help staff come in there 24/7, overnight staff, weekend staff, holidays. ILS, independent living, means less hours. This person probably lives on their own. It could be someone transitioning from living with their family to transitioning into finding their own place, and they need less support. So it could be higher functioning autism. They're able to live on their own and basically address an emergency if needed. That means call 911. It doesn't mean we have a lot of people who can't read or write who live in independent living, but can they cook? Can they get themselves to and from their program or school or jobs? Absolutely. We meet them at where they're at. We create systems to help them stay within that. We sort of call it interdependence. We're creating layers of what they need to stay in their home on their terms for as long as possible. We connect them, besides those resources I talked about earlier, but when it comes to being in their home, we help maintain their monthly budgets. We take them grocery shopping. We might have to do meal prepping for them. We also help with housekeeping if needed, if they need help learning how to do laundry. We also, in ILS, spend a lot of time on teaching skills. So we sort of work our way out of a job. We want to teach them those skills so we can back our way out and reduce the amount of hours that we work with that person. Because eventually the goal is to turn it over to them. We still might then do a weekly check-in. We have a few people in ILS where now we see them twice a month. I started with one guy, we used to see him every month, every week, and we slowly started to back out because really these were things he could do on his own now. So we just go in once a month to make sure bills get paid. Then afterwards, we don't see him again for the rest of the month. And that's the goal. That's what we want. And then on the flip side of that, we are recently now stepping into a woman's life again that we've been supporting minimally. She's aging, she's a senior, and she just has more medical needs. So now we have increased support, and we're advocating with the Regional Center for an increase in hours because she just has some medical needs that need to be met that she cannot do on her own, and her family is not around and they can't support her in that. So I would say the other critical thing that we help is with medical appointments. We get them, make sure that they have insurance, or if they have a specialist that they're seeing their primary care doctor, getting to those appointments annually. Any specialists that they might be referred to, we help them find those specialists. We also inform, we have to keep in contact with the Regional Center and document all these appointments, so we submit those to the Regional Center. We have sort of carried that same sort of documentation over with working with the fiduciaries. We let them know of medical appointments at the end of the month. We keep them up to date on what's happening with medical appointments, if there's ongoing medical issues. What I have just found interesting going into this side, because with the Regional Center we have all these guidelines to follow. While working with people in group homes and boarding cares, not necessarily do the boarding care managers help maintain medical appointments and benefits. So we were learning from a lot of, as we met with these people, they hadn't been to the doctor in 7 years. Their benefits, yes, they qualify for Medicare now, so they've lost their Medi-Cal, but really they should have kept their Medi-Cal all along. And so we kind of reconnect them to those services and help them find new doctors. We are not doctors. We are not therapists. We do have an RN, two nurses that we contract with, one that actually works for us and one we contract with. We have one medical social worker that we work with, and we contract with another MFT, and we contract with another therapist. So when we need them, we bring them in. But at the end of the day, we don't want to charge anyone those services. We'd rather them get connected through their own insurance and utilize those services, which are covered benefits through their insurance company. So that would be, I think, the most significant area that I feel like in working with Steve and Herb and this other person is that the lack of connection to staying on medical and benefits, long as the emergency medical is being met. I said people were going to the emergency, but going to the ER for pneumonia could have been caught earlier if they went and had a primary care physician. Same with some mental health. A lot of people get disconnected with mental health, so we've been able to help get reconnected to mental health, which we have a lot of behavioral health on both sides from the regional center, but that is not their main diagnosis. To really, like Steve said, to be in the regional center, to get the services, is to have an ID diagnosis. And I will say it's the first thing I do when I go in and I meet with people is to try to connect that dot if it's possible. We've been able to connect it with one person, that they could qualify for regional center services because their main disability is either physical or it's cognitive. So we've been able to make that connection. And then they can get those regional center services where then they don't need outside case management services. They'll be able to utilize it, and it's a paid benefit through the regional center. They will find an agency and contract with them. All right, so before I go on, does anyone have any questions about independent living and supported living? No? I know I talk really fast. Sorry. So a requirement for ILS and supported living, which we've carried over into this department, it's one-on-one. We meet in the field. It is one-on-one. It's not a group of people. We do work as a team, and eventually, like, someone else besides me will come in and meet with the person. But we provide one-on-one services. We go to their home. We're not clinical. We don't come off as clinical. And we don't want to be clinical. That's what their medical team is for. We're there to provide the assistance that they need emotionally to maintain those clinical services. I think that might be it. So this is just more about locating affordable housing and teaching. I think this might be in the handout that you guys have. So on here it says hiring and recruiting. When we hire, like I said, there's background checks. When we send them into the home, there's hand-over-hand training. No one goes in there cold without meeting the person. If I know someone and I'm the main person working with that person right now, if I hire someone else to come in and work with them, I would go in and I would do the training. We hand over transition notes so they understand what they're stepping into. If there's more complicated stuff, usually the supervisors do stay pretty connected on the back end. Like I will maintain handling like an appeal for Social Security or handling maybe getting Medi-Cal benefits up and running again for someone. But there might be the monthly check-ins or the weekly check-ins that would get turned over to another case manager in the office.
Let me just mention, just to reiterate, I know we're trying to cram a lot in. How valuable is it for folks in this room to have somebody who actually goes down the Social Security? Because, you get your beneficiary code. What happened? I don't know, right? They don't get it. Or going to the physician. There's a number of things where, having somebody who's actually working with them and being the advocate and can actually report to you, how valuable is that? I mean, because I get the same thing. Went to the doctor. What happened? I don't know. Well, something probably did happen, right?
There might be some follow-up.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other important things is to focus on is that, and we try to focus on community. What is it that they like to do? What activities, what enjoyment do you get in life? Or what would you like to get reconnected with back into the community? That was another component that we found missing. A lot of people are just sort of sitting around in the boarding care home and not doing anything. And that is fine if that's their choice. But if they want something else and they just don't know how to attain it, how to reach out for it, well, we help them reach out for it. We do the research in the background. help people find day programs, and so they can go to someplace to do during the day that's meaningful to them. And of course, you know, we have somebody that, honestly, they just love to sit home all day, but now they're sitting home instead of in a boarding care sharing a room with 2 other people, in their own room with their computer watching what they want to watch, the TV, what they want to watch, not negotiating it with 3 or 4 other people. So I think that's important, you know, again, to meet someone where they're at and get them reconnected to what's around them, take them out and about in the community that we move them into, or the community that we go to, make sure that they feel comfortable in going out. Yes.
So you may get into this, so if you are, you just tell me.
That's okay.
So this sounds like a wonderful service. So a couple questions.
Uh-huh.
Is this not something that you would get through the regional center? Like a special needs person has certain needs and they would contract EBI to help somebody through the regional center? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question isn't this part of ILS and SLS what you're describing here?
This is ILS and SLS. We've just carried the format into, we're working with a new group of people. So,
John, let me expand the question. Once again, the majority of folks that you've been working with are not
Yes.
regional center clients. But if they are a regional center client, is this meant to replace the regional center services?
no, this is not. If they qualify for regional centers of services and we can get them signed up with regional center, we will back out because we want that agency to take over because it will not cost them any money. It doesn't come out of their funds. It gets paid for through the regional
So
center.
I come mostly from the special needs world. So this is something that's paid for out of pocket, not through the regional center.
Yes.
Okay.
So the only way to get into the regional center is to have an assessment, and you have to have an ID, intellectual developmental disability, autism, Down syndrome, CP. They have not broadened the scope. Do I wish they would include mental health? Because we're discovering there's a lot more behavioral health, and then follows some others. But so when he had said earlier, it is always my first question too. One of the first questions I always ask family members, or I ask the person, were you ever in special education in high school? Can you ever remember a time you were in special education? And if so, can we go to that school and call for a transcript? Because if we can make that connection that they needed special education at some point in time, maybe then we can make the connection that they should have had. Because sometimes mental health comes later in life. But there's small things that might have happened earlier that we're not aware of. So if we can get them in to the regional center, absolutely we will. Then we are pleased to back out. Because one of the things I find, especially I guess coming from the world of regional center where we weren't dipping into people's personal money, is that I don't want to take away their funds. That the idea is to make their funds last longer. We want to stretch it out for as long as possible. So if we can find other resources, then I'd rather connect them to those other resources. Though it is difficult without a diagnosis of ID to get into the regional center. They just won't accept mental health.
No, I understand. So that clarified it. Thank you. But if they are a regional center client, the regional center might contract you guys to help them with the same service.
They might, but here's the thing to consider, and I being that I know you're a parent of a child with a developmental disability, okay, a lot of the parents are the advocates, they're involved in the IPP
Yes.
and that kind of thing. The concern the parents have is, who's going to be there when I'm not around, and do we have somebody who even knows what an IPP is, right? So part of this might be the services that they would provide here would be to make sure that, once again, with IPPs, you hear this all the time. They don't give you a long list of things you can ask for. They tell you what they think you need here, and it may be that somebody from EBI or ICS or Bayberry or Hope look at that and go, well, how about something else? So, and I have to say that EBI and the other agencies, we go back to that she's found 2 folks who probably belong with regional center services. Well, they're turning over to the regional center for things that they could charge privately. That's not how these organizations work here. If they can find, community supports or natural supports or whatever, this is what they tap into. This is above and beyond, these supports. And I have to say that they've been all very good about making sure that they tap into those supports first. And these are add-ins, but they're necessary add-ins. If you don't understand the system, how are you going to navigate this? And they understand the system. And by the way, the other thing is, they speak HUD. I don't speak HUD. It's a foreign language to me. They speak HUD.
HUD is the Housing of Urban Development. That's
Yeah.
the federal funding for housing.
I was just going to say that I am a parent of a son with autism. He is a regional center client. I have no, I do not feel that I'm going to get the services that he needs, even though he is a regional center client. They might give him 100 hours of ILS or SLS support. There's no guarantee that they're actually going to find an agency that can provide that support. There aren't enough to go around. So even though he is typically, eligible for those services, I as a parent feel like I need to go to an LPP program, so I am assured that I get to pick the SLS or ILS provider that I have faith in and that I know knows the system and the area, because I can't rely on the regional center being there for him. So even though
We love them, but we don't trust them.
they can give you all the hours you need, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have a provider for you.
No, they don't provide them. They are basically the contractor. They give the POS, the purchase of service, to the different agencies. So to go back a little bit, if you have an IPP, or if you know if you're working with a family and the special needs person that you're working with, the beneficiary, they are a regional center consumer, like they are a client of the regional center. One of the first things we always do is when we look at the IPP, and this is now I'm going to put on my director's hat for independent living and for supported living in the past, is that we look at the IPP and to make sure, are all the goals of the family and the beneficiary, are they listed in the IPP? So one of the things that often gets missed is housing. So it's just not a natural, most people think, oh, well, they've been living at home, they're 22, they can just stay here. But you need to put it in the IPP from the get-go in the beginning, because then the regional center has to keep that in it as a focus. So the agency who they contract with, I would have you advise your families that you're the biggest advocates. You're going to advocate that, yes, I still want this in here. I want an agency that's going to help find housing. And then when housing is found, in the interim during that time, I want them to work on goals like shopping, budgeting, medical appointments, whatever it might be, but those are part of the IPP that you're really going to look at and focus on. Amy is right. There's a wait list almost at every agency. We have a wait list for all of our departments, supported living, supported employment, and independent living, who receive purchases from the regional center. We have a wait list for every single department. We cannot hire fast enough, but also sometimes there are certain things that we just can't manage. So we say, no, we're sorry. It could be a family who says, recently, a family who wanted to hire us, but they want us to focus on housing in Oregon. I am not familiar with Oregon housing. I'm not even, and I'm sure, HUD rules are probably the same, but by state, I am not familiar. Plus, I don't know the affordable housing up there. So really, that is not a reason why, but if you're familiar, you should start reaching out to Oregon, and you should start really reaching out to them. Also, I don't know the benefits in Oregon. I have no idea how that's going to work. Medi-Cal is Medicaid, but I don't know what Oregon's Medicaid program is. And honestly, for me to do all the time and research, you should really get to Oregon and find someone up there.
But their expertise is they know. And by the
We know-
way, you're in a different situation, but we gotta keep moving.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with that lady back there. In purple, you're putting your hand up? Oh, okay. Okay, so you?
Speaking of hiring, can you tell us a little bit more about that line that talks about recruiting, hiring, and training in home care workers?
So in our departments, there's one department, supported living, that we help manage in-home support services for people. So we utilize those hours, but they have to fall under following our guidelines for hire. So they go.
IHSS brings the workers to you?
No, we hire our own people, and then we send them to IHS to go do the class, and we pay for them to have the DOJ run through them. But we don't do that until they've cleared it with us, and we know they're going to clear it with them first, because we actually don't even hire until we have a cleared DOJ and a DMV pool. Once those two are in place and they've completed the interview process, we have a recruiting team of 2 people. They help recruit and hire for all departments. We give them what we're looking for in the area and need, and they go out and do the hiring for us. Each department is part of the hiring. We come in and do the second round interviews after the phone and first round interviews have been completed, once we know the background checks have been completed, and once we have reference checks in place. Then the departments, like I just interviewed yesterday after all this was completed, and then I go in and do the final hiring and decide if I think this person will fit into our team and philosophy, mission driven, will meet what the goal is for this person to come in to support the consumers that we support. Then after that, they go to IHSS if they're supporting someone with IHSS hours. Now, for fiduciaries, we will have to go off the IHSS provider list, just like we do in our Alameda County program, working with California Transition Program. We do go off the IHSS provider list. We usually ask the beneficiary of the IHSS benefits if they have a family member they can bring in. We help them create an interview sheet, a checkoff sheet, so they understand. At the end of the day, it does come down to the beneficiary deciding on their own, do they want to hire this person or not? We've had a lot of them turn down people, then we've had some family members be really adamant that they want to hire a friend or so-and-so, and that is fine too. But we want to make sure that the beneficiary understands their rights when it comes to hiring people and making sure that a schedule created works for them in their life. So we might sit down and ask them questions prior to, what is it that you're looking for before the IHSS interview even comes out to the house for that assessment? Like, what do you need help in? Like, if it's a cleaning or meal prep, because IHSS, one of the things that they're no longer covering, and you have to be sort of creative, is driving to medical appointments because they don't do reimbursements for things. So how do you work that in? So we try to figure out what it is they need prior before the IHSS intake coordinator comes out. And then once they get approved for hours, we work with them on hiring a person, helping them create sort of a training checklist on what they want and how they like things to be done, and the hours that'll work for them. It is still, at the end of the day, it's the beneficiary's decision. It is. We've had many of them. We'll find people off the provider list, and they say, no, I don't like them. And that's their choice. Okay, we just keep going. We'll keep looking. We might do the initial phone screening just to make sure, because we know what the person has sort of indicated what they might want and time frame. So we knew the initial phone screening, but the actual face-to-face interview is between the beneficiary of the hours and the IHSS worker who's coming in, and they've all been proved too. So to get on the IHSS provider list, you have to have gone through their background screening and through their, it's a 2.5, 3 hour class where you sit in and watch a video about sort of like the do's and don'ts of being an IHSS worker. Any other questions? Okay, please let me keep going. So this is just it's an older assessment sheet, but a referral. So this is sort of like the referral sheet. It sort of asks questions like, what benefits do you know they already have? Having sort of some insight into the person is helpful for us when we go out, so we're not going in there cold. Like, what benefits are we looking at? If we're unsure about benefits, we do ask that, are they open to running a criminal background check? It doesn't stop us from looking for housing for someone who might have a criminal background check, but if we can mitigate that risk prior, that is helpful. I mean, we've helped a lot of people that have incidents on their report from years ago, or they've been evicted from housing. We've still gotten them into housing because we were able to work with the property manager that maybe evicted them to find out why and create a timeline maybe, because they were hospitalized for 3 months. That's why they didn't pay their rent and they just lost connection to housing. But we've ever been able to connect a timeline and advocate. And usually most properties are forgiving, especially when it comes to affordable housing. So it's changed a little bit, again, working with Abby. We've been able to sort of like tweak this, and we've sort of recreated the wheel a little bit. This is from the very beginning. But having initial information, I've actually have done a few intakes over the phone with Shelley where she just tells me all the information needed, and then I can go out and meet the person, and she gives the person a heads up that I'll be coming out to meet them. Release of information is really important. A release of information just allows us to communicate with permission. At any time, though, the beneficiary can pull it if they don't need it. If they say, no, I've changed my mind. We usually list on there the fiduciary and any medical team that we can talk openly with. We haven't had a beneficiary pull it yet, but we do ask them to sign that. This is towards the end. So I'm just going to get them all up here. So I think this is, yes?
This might be a really basic question. But
That's okay.
Is this service not available, is it only available to people who are eligible for public benefits? What about like beneficiaries who
No.
need some help with budgeting or getting a job, or, they're just not functioning all that great?
No, it's open to anybody that you feel like that needs some case management services. Like Steve said, it's easy as collecting receipts. If someone has a hard time submitting receipts for money spent, it's anywhere and above.
So
But it's
some of
really,
it might
go
be
ahead.
like doing an occasional safety check. One of the premises of ILS is you're teaching folks skills, and your job eventually is to work yourself out of a job. So if you have a beneficiary who just cannot keep receipts to save their life, as EBI can help work with them, and the goal will be eventually to work yourself out of the job, right?
Yes.
So it can go from something that is very small to something huge. It really depends on the need, and it's something that constantly changes.
Yes.
And so what does it cost?
Currently, our rate is $60 an hour.
How much?
$60 an hour for case managers. For nurse and MSW, MFT, it is $90 an hour currently. And that cost right there is just to cover the cost. That's just their charge to us, so that's what we just pass on down. Could that change? Our budget runs on the fiscal year, so July 1st, it'll be redetermined. But as of now, at least case management, we think will stay the same at $60 an hour. Nursing and MFT might change.
So I can suggest this, because I know we're trying to cram a lot in. I really wanted Herb, who's been
Okay.
using the program here, wanted to give him a few, and
Sure.
understand.
Don't go,
Yeah.
because I have
Yeah, don't
really
go.
good things to say, and I didn't expect to stand and talk, but since they did it this way. I want to say, I've been using the program a little over a year, and certainly, I would say this about Christine, because I'm spoiled, because I work with her. If she were a fiduciary, she would be the one. I mean, she really is on it, and she's handled our cases. I remember I cornered her in the parking lot one day, and I was like, well, what about the people who work for you? Anybody leaving?
I was like, you want to poach your staff?
I was like, I can't touch you because that would be the death of me. But what about, they have young college-bound people and people going off into the world who stop and work with her. And so they're very skilled and they're very capable. So it's really beneficial. But I want to just give you a couple cases that I'm working with. And they highlighted the public benefits advocacy work that they do, as well as housing. And I want to say this, and most of you know, and some of you used to hire me before I was a fiduciary as your benefits person. I'd go down to Social Security and argue your case for you. Christine is just as skilled, maybe even better than I was. I mean, she knows the benefits. She talks about a couple of people in our organization being certified, but certainly she's capable, can do it. She's handled that for us. I'm going to give you two quick examples. One gentleman had actually been homeless. We did find housing, and as a trustee, my job is just to administer, to serve, to make sure that things get taken care of, and not to actually do work. But within staff, we had a couple connections. We found some housing for a gentleman who had come into an inheritance, had been living next to the freeway. The Dales gave us the case, and it's like, well, he's out on, the freeway. We found him, we found housing. I gotta say, she's doing other things, but on another case, I'm jumping around here, she actually went out into the community to find an individual who was homeless. She went to several community centers, looked for, several weeks, couldn't find him, had to back off because nothing was happening, followed leads on where he may be. That aside, this other case where the gentleman we found living next to the freeway, we got him into some housing. Christine came in, helped him get his ID, helped him connect to public benefits, helped him connect with medical issues. Great, because we just didn't have the time to do that. Christine mentioned a case where housing in particular for one person. We have a gentleman, had a special needs trust, is very small. Come to find out in his care, and he was living in a board and care, he had multiple personality disorder. And we always thought he was goofing us. We just, we really did. We had no idea. No one knew anything about it. We got to the bottom of that. Christine found him housing. He didn't want to go, part of it. Okay. One personality didn't want to go. And fought and kept going back. And Christine really worked with him to get him there. And it's really been beneficial. And I'm just telling you, and it's affordable. So a lot of times, I mean, maybe we have worked with care management services. You know, they've got a big fee. You know, it's $2,400 to get started. That's not to knock anyone, but here it's very affordable, and it's the, you know, where the rubber meets the road. And I'm telling you, you know, and I said this in front of our boss because I was over at EBI, which is a great organization. You know, Christine is it. So, you know, I really appreciate the services you provide.
But Herb, a couple of questions. So,
Sure.
I mean, as a business person, right?
Yeah, yes.
Why in the hell, when you're charging, I think you're charging more than $60 an hour,
Yeah.
why would you do this?
Well, my job as the trustee, now it's different if you're the conservator, and if you can use her in conservatorships and you don't have the time, you do it. But one is, my job is really to hire the people to actually do the work. And my job is not to do the or the care management aspect of this. The other thing is, I just don't have time. The other thing is they have connections with housing. They have the resources and the time to spend going to the Social Security office. So those are some of the main reasons. And they're good at this. I mean, if you spend time all day long doing something, you become efficient, and that's what I like. That's what I like about them. John's got a question here.
John, go ahead, and then
So basically, as trustee, your client pays you as trustee, then you're just making a decision to sort of contract EBI and Christine for that case management part of the work.
That is correct. You know, and you could do that two ways, I guess. But for me, we're not trying to double bang this thing. We're just trying to make sure services get done. So the fee is the fee, and we're not. But you know, reports come to us, and so that's where we spend our time and make our fees, if you will, going over those reports, interacting with them, directing them, because they take directions from us. I mean, they're there to work with the clients, but the direction as far as the trustee, they take it from us.
And I'll just mention this as an attorney, so going from fiduciary back to attorney, it's absolutely essential, and I've worked with many of you in this room here, that I have fiduciaries I can count on. Now, I can tell you, there seems to be a requirement for every fiduciary in the East Bay that you must come and visit with me, which is fine, and all that, and convince me I'm going to turn all my cases over to you, and that's all fine. But I'll tell you what I've noticed, especially with my population, which are probably the tougher folks. It doesn't take long before a fiduciary gets completely overwhelmed, okay? It's a relationship. You know, here's the deal, guys. I think if you do this and you do this right here, you can expand the number of cases that you're working on. You can do a better job. You know, what your job is to have your beneficiary not call me and tell me, and they'll do it anyway, about, you know, what it is, I can't get a hold of my fiduciary and that kind of thing here. I will tell you, it will make you, not only will you do a better job, you'll do a better job of with your referral sources, you know, because part of this is I want to be able to know that I am turning this over to somebody who's going to competently handle these cases. And yeah, probably some of the more interesting stories you have probably came from our office, and I'm sorry about that here. But you know, part of this is how do you deal with these day-to-day things? EBI has been doing this for over a quarter of a century. Here, ICS, which is, once again, we have a list of the programs that are looking at coming on board. You know, they do the same thing. It's an existing program with an adaptable system that you can tap into. Can you use it for seniors? Why not? Can you use it for folks with mental health? The only issue is going to be the safety here of the workers, right? So, yeah, it's... but as long as it's something, you know, these are folks that are trained and can do this. This is an opportunity to get involved. The other thing before I don't know when they're going to pull the plug on me, because I know we're over time already, but you should have known better. You invited me in. Here's the other offer with this, okay? We'll go back to this. My interest, obviously, is as the trustee of the Golden State Pool Trust, but my interest in this program is to make this group viable and to get Christine and the other programs enough work where this is going to be commercially viable for them, and without getting into a whole lot, the current rates that they get from the regional center are just insane, okay? And we want to see that these programs continue and work cross disability. So here's the opportunity you might look at, and part of this is to consider using EBI, meet with your staff, work on how you're going to do this, and how this is going to work. But here's the other opportunity, which is we're actively encouraging, and this is what Amy does in the back, we're actively encouraging reaching out to your referral sources, the attorneys you work with here, both PI attorneys and special needs attorneys, to families and persons with disabilities, and do programs. So we're actively working on doing some programs with Herb here, working with, because once again, it's all networking. Okay, and how to do that. You have an opportunity not only for your practice, but I want you also to think of it as advocates. I'm here to tell you the biggest problem in the community for serving folks with special needs is not just affordable case management, but knowledgeable case management. The things that EBI and ICS and the other programs have brought to the table are things that I would never have dreamed of, like getting folks on waiting lists for HUD programs. Fiduciaries don't do that, but we do, and really have a stronger focus on our community. Lastly, you want to focus on somebody like Amy here, because as a parent of a child with a disability, I hear this all the time. Who is going to be there to be the knowledgeable advocate for my loved one with a special need? And by adding this component, once again, it's an opportunity to expand your practice by doing a better job. And yes, maybe there's some things you traditionally would do and charge full fee for, and instead you're delegating it to EBI for a fraction until they learn the marketplace. So hopefully they don't do that here. But I will tell you, I think in the end, and I think hopefully Herb will back me up on this, there is the opportunity not only to do a better job, and we're all in it for advocacy, but it is good for the bottom line.
Yeah, it's affordable.
Any last things before we get thrown out? And I think because we're really pushing our luck at this point.
This was great.
I want to encourage you, and I hope you guys for the East Bay PFAC, once again, we are the leaders, we are one of the founders. Why don't we show the state how to do a better job? Okay? Take care. Thank you.